General ZYX 4471 stood motionless in the command center of the Vanguard, his 6 eyes fixed on the tactical display that showed impossible readings. The crimson glow of his battle armor's chest panel pulsed rapidly, a clear sign of his species' equivalent of shock. For 3 stellar cycles, he had led the hegemony's most elite forces across 17 different worlds, conquering civilizations with methodical precision. Never had he encountered anything like this. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the mechanical undertones that marked him as a Kethari warrior caste. Commander Vex 2219 approached, her own armor scarred from recent combat. "General, the human resistance on Sector 7 has evolved. They're exhibiting behaviors that defy all tactical protocols." ZYX 4471's mandibles clicked impatiently. "Elaborate." The holographic display flickered to life, showing recorded footage from the morning's engagement. Human soldiers, vastly outnumbered and outgunned, were advancing through a kill zone that should have been impossible to traverse. But these weren't ordinary tactics, they were throwing themselves into enemy fire to create diversions, using their own wounded as bait and somehow maintaining unit cohesion despite catastrophic losses. "Watch this section," Vex 2219 highlighted a particular sequence. Private Unit 7 Alpha takes a plasma bolt to the torso. Instead of seeking medical attention or retreating, he continues firing for another 43 seconds, taking down 2 of our heavy gunners before collapsing. ZYX 4471's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Their physiology can't sustain that level of trauma and maintain combat effectiveness." "That's what we thought, General. But observe Unit 12 Beta." The display shifted to show a human soldier who had lost his primary weapon. Rather than retreat, he picked up debris from a destroyed building and began hurling it at hegemony forces with such accuracy that he disabled 3 tactical visors before acquiring a fallen comrade's rifle. The general's tactical implants ran probability calculations at lightning speed. The mathematics were clear. By all known parameters, the human forces should have been eliminated within the first hour of engagement. Yet here they were, 6 hours later, still fighting with an intensity that seemed to actually increase as their numbers dwindled. "Sir," another officer approached, his report tablet trembling in his grip. "The psychological warfare unit has completed their analysis of intercepted human communications. And? They're not following standard military doctrine. The humans have a concept they call brotherhood that our translators struggle to quantify. They're fighting not just for tactical objectives, but for something they term each other. This creates an exponential multiplication of combat effectiveness that our models cannot predict." ZYX 4471 studied the data feeds showing individual human soldiers. One medic had refused evacuation 3 times to treat wounded comrades. A communications specialist had held his position for 2 hours after his bunker was overrun, continuing to coordinate artillery strikes while surrounded. Most disturbing of all, several units had voluntarily entered what they called suicide runs, not as a last resort, but as calculated tactical decisions to save their fellow soldiers. General Vex 2219's voice carried an edge of uncertainty that was forbidden in hegemony military protocol. "Our casualty reports show that we've lost 37% of our ground forces. The humans have lost nearly 80% of theirs, but..." She paused, her warriors' training struggling with the implications. "But they're fighting harder now than when the engagement began." The general's optical sensors refocused on the tactical display. A small group of human soldiers had just emerged from cover to rescue a wounded teammate who was pinned down by crossfire. They moved with such coordination and determination that his tactical computers couldn't generate effective countermeasures. "These human soldiers," he murmured, his voice carrying something that sounded almost like admiration, "they're not just unbelievable. They're teaching us something we never learned in all our conquered worlds." His communication implant crackled to life with urgent reports from other sectors. Similar patterns were emerging across the entire front. Human forces that should have been routed were instead becoming more dangerous, more unpredictable, more unified with each passing hour. For the first time in his military career, General ZYX 4471 began to understand that the hegemony might have encountered something more powerful than superior technology. The unbreakable bond between warriors who refused to abandon each other, no matter the cost.